Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Mindfully Breathing with Flowering Smiles. I'm Matt Buchanan. We're kindly, gently, and lovingly opening our eyes and discovering ourselves through the Buddha's full discourse on breathing, as updated by Thích. Each episode presents a pair of the discourse's steps along with additional important concepts to scaffold you into the episode's guided meditation. This is your opportunity to experience the Buddha's discourse. We're at the end of steps 1 and 2, which is breathing in and breathing out. At the end of each pair of steps, we'll go through the door's liberation. We'll go through emptiness, aimlessness, signlessness, and we'll relate it to the steps that we're doing. So we're going to be relating emptiness with our breathing. There's no need to rush as we do this. We aren't going anywhere. We're just letting go so our eyes can open. So please, lovingly sit and be while enjoying the happiness and peace that you are. A Flowering Meadow, Emptiness, Part 1. How beautiful is the relationship between my in-breath and my out-breath. Our objective is to experience the interbeing of our in-breath and our out-breath. Why is this important? It's important to know how beautiful we are. How we're going to do that? We're going to work with our steps 1 and 2, in and out. We're going to bring in the core, mindfulness, concentration, and insight. We also want to welcome ourselves with a smile. It's an important part of our practice. And then emptiness is a new one. Emptiness, which has the qualities of interbeing, impermanence, no self, and no birth, no death. Yeah, that's a lot, I know, but we're going to make it really simple. We're going to boil it down. We want to experience a meadow's ecology. That's going to be a new one for us. And then conditions. It's time for Sangha sharing. If you're with another person, please share some of your joys and insights, questions, curiosities. It's time to build community. It's a time when we share and we listen. For the Dharma talk, there's a 1-minute Thich Nhat Hanh talk, a joyful wave. It's a great introduction to all this, and that nothing dies and simply disappears. Conditions change, and something else is manifested for the present moment. A format change. Today is going to be very different. We will talk about ecology and food webs. Then there'll be a hands-on lab. Yes, a hands-on lab. I'm excited about it. The lab is another opportunity for us to experience the Buddhist discourse. Then I'll step away and let you ride without training wheels for insight. If you've been following along, you are definitely ready for this step. If you haven't already done so, please begin to step into meditation and seek insight. All you have to do is mindfully breathe and relax. Be comfortable, be calm, ease, and then just listen when you're in the moment, the present moment, a wonderful moment. Insight will come. I'm excited for you. A meadow's food web. The ecology of a meadow is a fantastic model to illustrate emptiness. Let's look at the food web and see how the nutrients are passed along in the meadow. And yes, you might have flashbacks from high school. But as you can remember with the food web, it shows you how nutrients as well as energy is moved through a food web. So the grasshopper eats the meadow, and it has the nutrients there, and those become building blocks for the grasshopper, and goes on to the frog. And the frog, therefore, also have nutrients from the grasshopper and nutrients that were in the meadow. The eagle has nutrients from all three. In fact, it even has nutrients from the worm, because the worm took all the dying organisms, decomposted them, or composted them, and then that allowed it to become nutrients for the meadow. So everything in that food web right there has nutrients, or we'll say parts, from other organisms. Now, emptiness. How does this relate to emptiness? Emptiness has some qualities about it. The first one is interbeing. It's a term coined by Thích, and it just really describes the interconnectedness, the interdependence of that's seen in the food web here. I think by the name interbeing, existing together between, and the food web is a really nice illustration of interbeing. The next one is impermanence, and I think we all have a pretty good grasp on this. Well, we definitely do, right? So the eagle is never constant. The eagle is always changing. We are always changing. Everything is always changing. Change is the constant, right? So there is a quality of impermanence to emptiness. And now, no self. No self is a little bit more difficult, but we can see no self in the parts. It's demonstrated here along the food web. The grasshopper eats the plant, and so it now has flower parts in it. So does the eagle who ate the frog. Those flower parts, in other words, the nutrients, are passed along throughout the food web. So now you can say it as a Buddhist would say it. You can see the grasshopper in the frog. You can see the grasshopper in the eagle. You can see the worm in the meadow. In fact, in the eagle, you can see the whole meadow. None of these organisms are made entirely of its own parts. An eagle is not made of just eagle parts. It takes a flower, a grasshopper, and frog parts to make an eagle. The nutrients of those organisms are needed to make an eagle. We see that as the nutrients move up through the food web. Self here is defined by the parts something or an organism is made. For an eagle to be self, it would only be made of eagle parts. Those eagle parts are only for eagles and are never passed along. An eagle would be a standalone organism that is not dependent on another organism if it were a self. So let's represent the difference here between no self and self by looking at the food webs. It's much easier to see here. And we see in the picture here how in no self, the eagle is made up of all those parts. I think we've got that one pretty well. We've gone through that pretty well. If we then see, here it is right there. So if we look at self, here is the eagle as self. Notice there are no other parts going into the eagle like there are here. The eagle is a standalone organism. It does not need anything else to make an eagle. It is just right there, an eagle. That would be self. This is no self. This is self. I think the difference is pretty clear, or at least I hope it is. Okay, so no self really speaks to the connectiveness of everything. Now we're to go into no birth and no death. And don't worry, we'll do a little review. No birth and no death. We can see here that the grasshopper was born, it lives and it dies. So there's definitely birth and death there. When we look at the meadow, we stand back, look at the whole meadow, we see that birth and death are happening everywhere. So we're still at a birth and death level. It's the constant here is that life is continually moving through the meadow. Life just changes form. Life isn't born and life doesn't die. Life just changes form. It changes form as it transitions from the plant to the grasshopper, to the frog, to the eagle. In all of those cases, life just transformed through there, even though birth and death were happening. So the death of one becomes life for another. You have this relationship between birth and death. On the left, if we look real close at one organism, yes, there's birth and there's death there. But when we stand back and look at the whole picture, we see that yes, there is birth and yes, there is death happening everywhere. But death brings us life. The question is, which perspective has suffering and which has freedom. When you sit and contemplate with mindful breathing, concentration, insight will come. And that's the best way to receive that answer. Emptiness. Let's review that one here, because there's a lot of concepts here, and let's just boil it down and make it simple. The first part is emptiness is about being interconnected. Every organism needs another organism in order to live. It's well illustrated in the food web. Impermanence. Nothing lasts forever. Everything is born, it lives, it dies. Even a mountain, it rises, right? It breaks down and then becomes sand and moves along. So everything is constantly changing. And then life continues as it changes form. That is the constant. That emptiness is about interconnected through changes. We are all interconnected through changes. Life is moving through changes. Thinking versus experiencing. We just talked about emptiness. We have some definitions. We have some prior knowledge. And that's not experience yet. The intention of this podcast is to experience the Buddha's discourse. We want to experience these concepts of emptiness so that we can broaden our definition from what was written down, what we see on the internet, what we just reviewed here, to I know what it feels like, emptiness. I know what no birth, no death, interbeing feels like. When we learn something new or have a new experience, it's abstract. All newness is abstraction. It's not until we experience it again and again does abstraction become concrete. Then our definitions bloom from our understanding of experience. If understanding happens outside of having the experience, sometimes the definitions we hold don't match the experience, and it can be quite confusing. If this happens, this is wonderful. You're beginning to expand your awareness, your definitions, and your experience can merge. You can rest in the experience abstraction. Tai says, if you're doing it right, you experience peace and happiness. In addition to what Tai says, if you also experience wonderment and gratitude, you're doing it right. If you experience a deep and freeing connectedness, you're doing it right. If you're experiencing freedom because you need nothing more, you're doing it right. If you experience how the flower is as beautiful as the pebble in the mud, you are doing it right. Peace and happiness are your grounding touchstones. So as you connect with the experience in your meditation and insight comes, listen for peace and happiness or contentment to be there, and you'll know you're doing it right. Because to meditate is to experience. We now have some definitions for emptiness and its qualities. We can see the no birth, no death as life changes form over time in the meadow. We can also see how the frog is interdependent on its food web. However, what's it like to experience emptiness? How will the experiences match our definitions? This is the exciting part. This is why I'm doing the podcast. So we have an opportunity to experience. And now we're going to experience our first hands-on lab. In this lab, you'll model the food web using toothpicks as nutrients. There is impermanence at play, so you must apply conditions to the nutrients so that life can be expressed in new forms. As you do this, be very aware of your actions as you do this lab and how they relate to 1, the flower by itself, or if you went to the grasshopper, that's fine. The flower by itself, the grasshopper by itself, the organism by itself that you're creating, and to the meadow as a whole. So by the organism itself and the meadow as a whole. All right, let's begin. Take a moment and imagine you're on a nature hike and you come across what appears to be a beautiful wildflower meadow. Now let your mind wander through the meadow. Notice everything you see: flowers of all sizes and colors, dirt, bugs, stones, grasses, worms, new plant starts, dying flowers, frogs, dragonflies, etc. Take a moment and think about those. Then when you have that in your mind, when you have those three in your mind, go ahead and watch this lab so you get an idea of how it flows, then back up and do it with me, please. And that way you can be aware of your actions. So I want you to experience your actions, or invite you to experience your actions, and see how they relate to the organism or the flower by itself, and how it relates to the meadow as a whole. Let this interaction, let this lab be a meditation in itself. So in other words, we breathe in and we breathe out. When we breathe in, I'm moving my hands into the meadow. I breathe out. I remove nutrients from the meadow. So you can do it mindfully. Enjoy. Hello, we're live. Hello. You see, I have my toothpicks here, and I have some that are black. Maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. Some that have some blue on there, some that have some orange, and that's not really important if you have yours done that way, but I just did it just so that each one is a little bit different. And what we're going to do is use this as our meadow. Okay. And when we do this, we're going to think of something in the meadow. Like, let's say I'm thinking of a little flea, right? I'm thinking of a little flea. Now I go into the meadow and grab some pieces to make your flea. And then I'll make my flea. And there's my flea. And does that look like a flea? No, that's not important that it does, but just it's the concept of it. Okay. So maybe we'll watch this once and then we'll go ahead and do it together here. Okay. So we're going back to the meadow that you saw. Think of 3 different things from the meadow. Anything from the meadow. We're going to use the toothpicks placed on this table here to abstractly make a shape that represents one of the 3 you thought of. You are pulling from the garden right here and applying conditions to create the creature or the object that you saw in your mind. After 30 seconds, everyone shares what their shape is. You apply conditions to the object or the creature and return the pieces to the garden. Okay, so let's think of our organism or our object. I've got one. Okay, let's begin. We have 30 seconds or sooner. And be aware I'm taking stuff from the meadow, different pieces to build. Actually, okay. Okay, if you're not done, hit pause. This is mine. Mine is a stone. And this stone has different minerals in it right here. I got a black mineral and an orange mineral, and then these 2 over here. Maybe we'll call those quartz, because quartz is white. So that was my stone, and I took those from the meadow. Okay. Now what we want to do is we're going to apply conditions that would happen out there in the meadow, and we're going to take your organism, take your object, apply conditions, and return it back to the meadow, back into its individual pieces. Now we're going to do it again, and this time we're going to think of another organism or object. We're going to take from the meadow and we're going to build. go. Okay, if you're not done, please hit pause until you're finished. Okay, what I have over here, I have a sunflower. This is my sunflower. I've taken from the meadow, I've taken a white piece here, 2 orange ones and a blue one right there. And I've created this shape, and it came from our meadow. Now I'm going to apply conditions to my object here, to my organism, and I'm going to return it to the meadow so it can become something else. All right, let's think of the third one. And I got mine. Okay, let's go ahead and begin. Okay, if you're not done, please hit pause. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. I said abstractly, but this kind of looks like something over here, what I've been doing the last 2. This is a deer. So I have a deer running through the meadow right here. This deer is life and it's moving. And then conditions happen. And then my deer goes back to the meadow. I hope you had a chance to do all that. Reflecting using mindful breathing, concentration to obtain insights. I'm going to read these questions slowly to you. And as I do, let them sink in. We want these questions to be in our full awareness. Keep going back to the physical experience of doing the lab to ground you. After you read the last question, or after I've shared the last question with you, the meditation will begin. We begin with mindful breathing, which naturally brings us into concentration. At this point, we are ripe for insight. This meditation is going to be 12 minutes and bells at 2 minutes. The first question: how did we observe impermanence within the flower and the meadow? Describe for yourself what happened with the flower. Describe for yourself what happened with the whole meadow. If you were the flower, how would you see life and death? If you were the whole meadow, how would you see life and death? In the fewest words possible, can you describe what was witnessed in the meadow? Breathing in, I feel my body rise. Breathing out, I feel my body ease. Rise, ease. I calm my body. As I breathe out, I smile gratefully to my body. Calm body, smile gratefully. As I breathe in, kindly focus on something in the meadow. As I breathe out, gently listen and reflect on its experience changes. Kindly focus, gently listen. Kindly focus on the whole meadow. As you breathe out, gently listen and reflect on its experience changes. Kindly focus, gently listen. Kindly focus on life in the flower. With kindness, focus on life in the meadow. Life in the flower, life in the meadow. Be with the flower in the meadow. As I breathe out, be with the meadow in the flower. Flower in the meadow, meadow in the flower. That can be a really profound and surprising from the insights that comes meditation. Insight is always like that. A lot of joy can come from it. What I invite you to do, because there's so much in this lab with emptiness and in this podcast here, this episode, is to come back to it. Come back, look at the lab, maybe do the lab again, read through some of the information, and do the meditation again. And bring with you a question, or I want to have more insights on no self, or whatever you choose. Bring that to your meditation. Insight is your personal teacher. Insight is amazing. If you haven't been exploring insight in your meditations, please begin to do so. Here's what I enjoy about insight. Number one, it will be presented in a way where you are most open to receiving the insight. I love that part. It will strike you deeply and has a tendency to be a profound experience. Not always, it'll always be good, but it can be profound. The third, it'll be the single most important suffering to heal and to be transcended for your own personal spiritual growth in this moment. It's the single most important suffering that needs to be healed. That's the part that insight will come out and present to you. It's beautiful. The fourth, it's a highly customized lesson plan that's perfect for you. You can't get that anywhere else. And the last on the list, but I'm sure there's more, it's always there for you. And you will naturally be guided along an enlightened path to discover yourself. So please, as time permits in the future, go over this sit again, the topics, the hands-on experience, and listen for your questions and curiosities. Then hold them in your focus and begin the meditation. Let those questions ruminate while you mindfully breathe. Insight has so much to offer you. It'll be a great ride.